From now on, this is going to completely change the way you eat a low FODMAP diet. Let me show you how. If you haven't heard already, the FODMAP friendly app has had a complete glow up, and it now contains a one-of-a-kind recipe maker feature that allows you to make your own low FODMAP recipes and takes all the guesswork out of FODMAP stacking. Yay! Hallelujah. The FODMAP friendly app and food database is free, but it now contains an optional in-app upgrade to purchase the recipe maker for $2.99. But if you stay until the end of this video, I've got a special 50% discount for you that's only available for a limited time. So what can the recipe maker do for you? Let's play around and find out. If you're new to a low FODMAP diet, then the first way that I'd recommend using the recipe maker is to type in your typical family favourite go-to recipes, the types of things that you suspect you won't be able to eat on a low FODMAP diet, and then see which ingredients are making the recipe high FODMAP. Then you can play around with swapping ingredients or changing quantities to tweak the recipe until it becomes low FODMAP. And even if you're already familiar with the high FODMAP culprits, being able to swap and change out ingredients and see how that affects the percentage of each FODMAP is a simple but super effective visual way of learning how your food choices and your portion sizes can take a recipe from low to high FODMAP or vice versa. Another way to use a recipe maker is to pop in the data from a recipe you find either in a cookbook or online and see how that stacks up. Pardon the pun. So just for fun, I'm going to put in my classic hummus recipe from my website and we'll see what the recipe maker makes of it. Sometimes people are surprised to hear that they can still enjoy hummus on a low FODMAP diet. Although you need to be mindful of portions and make a few simple ingredient swaps, homemade hummus is definitely worth the effort. When following a recipe, the first thing I do is check the food database to see if all of the ingredients are listed and to get an idea of whether they're low or high FODMAP, in what portion sizes, and if any substitutions are needed to the original recipe. Once your ingredients are entered into the recipe maker, you can now make all of these swaps directly in the app, saving you a lot of time, hassle and guesswork. We'll be making 2 portions of hummus, so we'll need 84 grams or half a cup of drained chickpeas. Add the chickpeas to a food processor along with 1 tablespoon of infused garlic oil, 1 tablespoon of tahini, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin and a generous grind of salt and pepper to taste. Now the real magic of the recipe maker happens when we take a look at the FODMAP chart. This is where we find out if our recipe is low or high FODMAP and see a detailed breakdown of how the FODMAPs in the total recipe are stacking up. Being able to see how each ingredient and portion size contributes to the overall FODMAP load is invaluable, and something that until now the average person following the low FODMAP diet has never had easy access to. I'm pleased to see that even with the optional tahini, my tried and tested classic hummus recipe is low FODMAP. Now if only the recipe maker had been available when it was first created, it would have saved me hours of FODMAP maths and calculations, all of which you can now do at the touch of a button. Happy days. So for me, the most exciting thing about this is really getting into the nitty-gritty, learning how to develop and create your own low FODMAP recipes based on your preferences, your cravings and your tolerances, and that's going to open up a whole new world of potential ingredients and recipes that you might have otherwise avoided. And this is all going to lead to some more food freedom. You're going to be able to include much more variety in your diet and you're going to be able to take back some of that control. And as well as being able to confidently create your own recipes, you can save them all directly in the app. So this is going to help you build up your own little database that you can constantly refer to throughout the low FODMAP diet and beyond. So a few things to bear in mind about the recipe maker. Number 1. It only works with food that's been tested and listed within the food database of the FODMAP friendly app. So what does this mean? You're going to come across ingredients in recipes, or there'll be ingredients familiar to you that aren't listed in the database. So what happens then? Well, as with anything to do with low FODMAP, it's your responsibility to become your own scientist. And you're probably going to need to do a little bit more research, or maybe even some reintroduction trials, just to test that an ingredient or recipe works for you and your tolerances. Number 2, does a recipe maker guarantee that I'm not going to react to a recipe? Unfortunately not. As with any low FODMAP recipe that you come across, just because it's been listed as low FODMAP, or even if it's been tested as low FODMAP, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's tolerable or right for you. You're still going to really need to stay in touch and in tune with your own body's reactions, but this is a really great place to start your own experiments. And finally, point number 3. My favourite low FODMAP recipe. It's telling me it's high FODMAP. Don't panic. If it's a recipe that you're familiar with, if it's something that you've been regularly eating and enjoying throughout the low FODMAP diet, then nothing needs to change. It may be that the recipe was never low FODMAP, but you could just personally tolerate it, the ingredients or the portion sizes as it was listed. It could be a recipe that's been written by AI, which is getting more and more common, or it could be a recipe that's very well intentioned and written with the best will in the world, but by somebody that doesn't fully understand the nuances of a low FODMAP diet, or doesn't fully grasp the effects of FODMAP stacking. But what if it was written by your favourite low FODMAP blogger, or it appears in your favourite low FODMAP cookbook, and it's the low FODMAP authority of somebody that you've really come to trust and rely on? Well, there's still no need to panic. All it means is that they simply were likely using a different set of low FODMAP data, be that from a different low FODMAP database, or simply from a different set of data along the low FODMAP timeline. As I'm sure we're all aware, quite often, particularly things like fresh fruit and vegetables, do routinely get retested, and that can sometimes lead to differences within the FODMAP levels, or even the types of FODMAPs that are contained in them. And all it means, if you come across a recipe that you know you've tried and trusted, is that the data was simply different at the point that that recipe was developed and created than it is now, because the app can only hold the current set of data. Neither one of those sets of data is more superior or more correct than the other. It's just the data that was confirmed and tested at the time. And again, if we go back to point number 2, all this means is that we are simply using this as a tool, as a starting point for your own personal investigations. I'm so jealous that this wasn't available back in 2017 when I did my own low FODMAP elimination, and I made a lot of rookie mistakes and I had some false starts. This would have been an absolute game changer, so I really hope that you can see the potential in it. If you're ready to give it a try, you'll find the option to upgrade to the recipe maker inside the FODMAP friendly app. And between now and the end of the year, for a limited time, you can use my code IRRVEGRM50, which I'll pop on screen now, for 50% off. And just to let you know that this is not a sponsored video or an affiliate link. I was just so excited to share this one-of-a-kind feature with you that I enthusiastically reached out to the lovely folks at FODMAP Friendly, and they kindly offered us this limited time discount. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the comments below if you have any questions about the app. I'd love for you to be able to confidently get started on this as soon as possible, because I know it's going to make such a massive difference to so many of you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.